I can't even begin to express how happy I am to be sitting at this table with you. And just to be sitting at this table, because I've been talking about this podcast for years.
Wow.
And it's something that I've wanted to do, but didn't feel that the timing was correct. It didn't have to be perfect because, you know, I don't think it's perfect now, but we're doing it, right? And it's just so exciting to have you here. Cristela Villatoro.
Yes.
And Dr. Aronson from NYU,
Yes.
my friend, your professor, my former professor, called me up one day and said, Maria, you have to meet this woman.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Wow.
And just to introduce you to our listeners, we'll introduce this podcast first. Yeah.
Yes.
We are Unencumbered Life. And you are such a perfect first guest to have because this podcast is about journeys of liberation and empowerment. And if there's anyone that I know that liberated themselves and is empowered to go through their life, it's you. And just a little bit about you. Passionate scholar, professional dancer, pursuing a career at NYU in psychology in graduate school. Yeah.
Yes.
And through your passions with mindfulness, meditation, dance, you were able to free yourself from the bondage of what was going on in your life and the different challenges that were in your life. And I don't want it to be, oh, everybody goes through challenges. No, these are like this is heavy shit.
It is.
Yeah, you went through some stuff. And
Yes.
I'm just going through a list here a little bit. So you had your struggles with teen pregnancy, lupus, mental illness, and now you're living your dream.
Yes.
And you started your own company, Empowered Psychology, right?
Empowered Psychology.
Empowered Psychology. Yeah, I
Yes.
just want to make sure I have that right. And before I ask questions about you, tell us a little bit about Empowered Psychology, your platform.
Yeah, so I've had 2 lupus flares, and the first one attacked my organs, and I almost died. So I was in remission for about 5 years, and then my second flare came, and it attacked me in a completely different way. My organs were fine, but this time it attacked my joints and eventually my nerves, and I was almost permanently disabled. It was exactly a year of that I was sick, and I double majored during my undergrad, and I took sociology as a second major, and I focused a lot of my classes on the healthcare system and health disparities. And it's crazy because during my first flare, I was in a pediatric care. And then during my second flare, I was in adult care. And the difference was insane. And I was seeing these health disparities happening to me before my eyes. So
When you say health disparities, what exactly do you mean by that?
well, the statistics say that, people of color are ignored. They're not treated the same. And that's what happened to me. When I went to the hospital the last time, because I think I did 17 ER visits, I said, this is the last time I am going to the hospital. They're fixing this today. And I went with that conviction, and it happened. And I promised myself that if I got back in remission, I was going to share my story. And because I have to. And so that's why I started Empowered Psychology, because that second flare, I didn't think I was going to get out of that.
So the reason why I wanted you to start with that is because after talking together a few times, we decided that we will call this episode the power of choice.
Yes.
Because in listening to your story, I was so amazed by the way you just said, okay, I'm choosing this to happen and I'm choosing that to happen. And this is what I'm going for. And I'm just going to, the next move is that. And you made it happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's the important message, because what we'd like to show our listeners is that we have all these self-doubts and limiting beliefs and things, and you hit some major obstacles in your life and you were able to get through it.
Yes.
Right? So why don't we start with, let's say, the first thing that happened to you where you had to choose something different for your life?
Well, let me just explain, my childhood. I grew up Houston, Texas. Like I said, I'm half Salvadoran, half Honduran. And my childhood was not the best. My problems started at actually, I won't even call it my problems, but, these traumas happened to me at a very young age, starting at 2, so I developed mental illness at a young age, and my parents, in their culture, they're not, especially during that time, mental illness, I don't even think was a conversation.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
was just labeled as the bad girl, la malcriada,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But really, things were going on, and either way, I had amazing people in my life, like my aunt, who always poured life into me. She was kind of the first person, my mom's sister, her name is Laura, who always knew something was wrong. And instead of giving into that narrative that everyone labeled me as, she would pour life into me. But as a little girl, even with all those traumas and issues, I was always extremely precocious, they tell me.
Mm-hmm.
The people, like my dance teacher, Miss Sheila, she tells me that I was always social, I was always creative, and all of that. So I would say the first time I had to make a choice was at 16, when I got sick with lupus, after years of living with severe mental illness, being ignored.
So what kind of mental illness, if you don't mind, you don't have to share, but what kind of mental illness did you suffer from?
I've never shared this.
Oh, you don't have to then.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You don't have to. It's fine. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on. It's fine.
I'm still not ready to share all of it, but anxiety and depression is in there.
Okay.
But yeah, so when of course, having a mix of all these mental issues going on, my nervous system was hyperactive and I developed lupus. And it was very fast. It happened very quick. In a matter of months, I lost almost all my hair. I lost weight like that, total of 18 pounds. I had ulcers all over my mouth. I had severe headaches. And by the time I got to the hospital, my hemoglobin was at 5. And I was living in Honduras at the time, in Tegucigalpa. So they gave me a blood transfusion. And when they found out I was American, they were like, no, she needs to go back to, and I was from Houston. So that's a miracle in itself, because that's the best medical center in the world. So I got to Houston and I was the mystery girl. Nobody knew what was wrong with me because I had so many issues. And then I had developed pneumonia in the hospital too. So I mean, everything was wrong. But luckily, after 2 weeks, 2 surgeries, a bunch of blood cultures, every round of doctors seeing me, they found out I had lupus nephritis stage 3. So this was the morning of my 17th birthday, February 18th, 2016. Dr. Ramirez and Dr. Shirley, they walk in, and it's my mom, my dad, my grandma, and there was some tulips my grandma brought me that were like closed. I remember they were closed because when she brought them, I was like, oh, okay, they're closed. And the doctors came in, they diagnosed me, and they said, okay, you have lupus, and now you have to do 6 months of chemo, 6 months of IVIG. You have to be on like 10 medications. I don't even know if you'll be able to go back to school. You may have to, repeat this year. So in that moment, it was rock bottom. I would say it was rock bottom. And I just felt this calmness. It's a feeling I still can't process, but I was like, I have nothing else to lose. And I was just so grateful that I was alive. And I remember when she finished saying everything, my mom just like burst into tears and like ran out the room. But I asked her, once everything calmed down, I said, okay, what can I do? I know I have to do these treatments regardless. What can I do on my end to make sure that I get better faster?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the answer was simple: sleep, eat healthy, work out. So I was like, okay. And from then, I just got this like motivation to recreate a new life for myself. And that's what happened.
So
Yeah.
that's the most fascinating part to me, because when you say I got motivation, so you're on your deathbed essentially,
Literally.
and you're like, oh, I'm not going to die. I'm going to do what they say, and I'm going to heal. So you made a decision to heal.
Yes.
So when you made that decision, do you remember at all, like how it felt? What was the mind shift?
What it really is a passion for life. Almost dying made me realize the gift that life was. And so what I call that was my will. I wanted to survive. I wanted to survive, and I knew that I didn't want to live. I just was determined that I wasn't going to let that illness, because I remember she said there's no cure. That was something they kept saying. There's no cure. And to me, I was like, there's no cure? Okay, bet. I'm going to I was just like so determined to survive and make sure that because I survived, I'm going to make sure that my life is not controlled by this illness. So then I have to do my part to take care of myself. And that was that feeling. And it was this relentless energy that I had.
So, all right. So let's say that this choice you made, it was so deliberate that you felt an energy.
Yes.
And where did that energy propel your life? Like, how did things change for you once you made that deliberate choice that ran through your body where you felt it? How did your life change from that?
That really showed me that your mind is the most powerful thing in the world. Seriously, because that showed me that if you really put your mind to something, even when all odds are against you, your mind's gonna win. Your will's gonna win.
But you didn't know that when you made the choice.
No, I
So
didn't.
what was happening in your life that started to show you that, wow, this is the way to go? This powerful, positive mindset of healing is actually doing the trick. Like, when did you start to see your life was changing?
So, of course, I made the decision I'm gonna eat healthy. That started and drink water and work out. But I had just gone through hell. So there's actually a moment. Thank you for asking that, because now I'm remembering that moment. But also I had just gone through hell. So when I got out the hospital, it's funny because I wasn't being a B word, but I was on some sassy, like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, just leave me alone. And I was really just processing, that my life as a 17-year-old wasn't going to look like everybody else's. So either way, I looked at the calendar and it was like March, about to be spring break. I realized I had a window that if I go to school now, I won't have to redo the grade. But if I don't, and I had like 3 or 4 days to make this decision, then I'd have to repeat the grade. Well, I said, do they have a wheelchair? They said yes. I said, okay, I'm going back to school. So I went back to school and they gave me my schedule. And of course, I didn't care though. Like people, I know people were like, oh my gosh, like, cause I look sick. I was in a wheelchair, but I was like, I'm determined. I'm here to finish the grade. Well, uh, the nurse, I was going in regularly to take my medications, and the nurse was like, you need to practice walking because that's something that the doctors wanted me to do because I couldn't walk 100% during that time. So I remember Philip and Kylie, my two friends who were there with me the whole time, still my friends to this day. They, after I finished my work in history class, I was like, okay, I need to go practice walking. So they came with me. I remember taking 10 steps and being winded. And they had to take me back to the nurse's office, and I had to lay down and like literally catch my breath.
And this is at 17 years old.
Yes, from 10 steps. So I remember I was like laying there, and there's this big, those lights in the nurse's room, and I'm looking at the light and I'm like, this is bad. Like I just kept telling myself like 10 steps. I grew up doing dance and gymnastics. I can't even do 10 steps. So I kept telling myself, no, this is bad, and this is very bad actually. And if I don't hustle, if I don't do my part, like this can really take my life. And I remember I looked over and my mom had packed me like 3 water bottles because they told me I needed to drink water, and I hadn't sipped any of them. I was like, oh hell no, like I'm gonna beat this. And I remember like I grabbed the water bottle and I chugged it, and then I was like, Philip, Kylie, roll me over, we're gonna go buy more water bottles. I drank 10 water bottles that day. And then I told my mom when I got out of school, Mom, I need to get the gym membership, I can do the bike. My mom literally got me a gym membership, and I would do the bike, and I would just watch people work out, and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And I was just observing. And from there, honestly, I was on a roll.
So
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you said you suffered mental illness.
Yes.
So was the mental illness still a part of your life then? Or so what happened to that?
Honestly, during that time, it completely shut off. And actually, that was the happiest time of my life, my recovery.
So it shut off.
It did.
So what do you think that was the cause of that? Like what could have attributed to that?
I think my gratitude for life, and I was busy, focused on surviving and making sure that I didn't allow this illness to control my life.
And when you say illness, you talk about the lupus
The
or the
lupus.
lupus and the mental illness, or were you not even thinking about the mental illness at this point?
I wasn't even thinking because I didn't even know that there was a relationship between the lupus and my mental illness. I didn't even know I was mentally ill. I found that out when I was 21.
Oh, wow.
That when I was mentally ill.
So what happened with that? How'd you find that out?
So this comes into like, the second part of my story, which is, I recovered from lupus the first time. 6 months of consistency, hanging around the right people, making sure I took my medications, finished my chemos, working out, eating healthy, drinking water. It looked like nothing had happened. Now I had lupus nephritis stage 3. 50% of my kidney was ruined. Now it looked like nothing happened. So then I knew, that's when I really knew the power of the mind, and I knew I was going to pursue a career in psychology. So I was in remission. Now a year after being in remission, I'm like, okay, I'm okay. And that's when the mental illness started creeping back in. I didn't know I had it. So I went on to pursue my education at UT, but this is where
UT meaning
University of Texas at Austin. And this is where, the second part of my story comes in. I found out that I was pregnant, and this was extremely, extremely hard. And at the beginning, I didn't know what to do, but I made a decision that I was going to keep my son Francisco, and my parents were extreme. My family, they said they were going to support me in my education. So because I was young and all the cultural stigmas that come with that, I wasn't married, I hadn't finished college, all that. I wasn't really celebrated. I didn't really have like a normal pregnancy like most people, and I feel like that contributed a lot to the issues I ended up having. But also, it was a hard thing to go through. So when Francisco was born, essentially, I had really bad postpartum. And like I said, I didn't even know I was sick mentally. So I'm honestly just in another alternative universe, not even questioning how I feel, just going with what I felt, not even questioning it. But then COVID hit and I was stuck at home, and I was like, okay, well, we're stuck at home. Everything's online. I'm going to take the time to actually grind on on my academics. So that's when I picked up a second major, and I took a mindfulness and self-compassion class. Now, around this time, it's like 6 months after I had Francisco, I'm starting to notice, okay, this isn't normal. Like, I should feel connected to my son. I'm a very loving person. Like, as you know, I'm social. I love being around people. I love my friends. I love my family. Why don't I love my own son? And I remember taking this mindfulness meditation, self-compassion class. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I want to learn how to meditate. So I would go the first day, and she defines mindfulness, which is the act of being present with your thoughts, judgment, and experiences, with your thoughts and experiences without judgment. I said, hold up, without judgment? I can do that? Because I mean, in my culture, we were never, bro, I grew up Catholic. So a lot of things I couldn't even say.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
So first of all, I was never taught how to feel my feelings.
Right.
Never taught what a feeling was. And then on top of that, I'm being told what to feel
Right.
by certain cultural and religious norms.
Right.
So when I thought this, I was like, wait, non-judgmentally. And then the second component was self-compassion.
Right.
Which adds on to that. And with those thoughts, I can then actually love myself where I am and give myself compassion. So that just put that on steroids. And I said, oh my gosh, I took that information, her homework and everything, and I said, I'm going to use this. Well, after about 2 weeks of using that information, I realized, okay, something's wrong. It's not about me anymore. And I want to be a good mother, and I'm going to go get help. And I went to go to the psychiatrist and psychologist, and I said, look, I don't, call the cops, like do what you got to do, but I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. Like no filter, no
Right.
nothing. I told them everything. And
So when you say, well, let me back up a little
yes.
bit. So you made a choice again that you were going to get help,
Yes.
and you went to the psychiatrist, and you told them everything. What do you mean everything? Like started from birth to?
Started with my traumas during childhood. Then I started with the lupus. Then I started with, my pregnancy and what I went through there and what I was going through navigating, my role, because my parents and my family came in to take care of Francisco so I could pursue my education. So I also felt conflicted. I felt guilt. I felt all these things. And I said, I need help. Like, I know something's wrong with me. Like, I'm not okay. And when I explained that to them, they told me it's actually complete with all this. it's actually completely normal that you feel this way. I said, completely normal. And that liberated me 50% already. And I was like,
It validated you.
exact. And I was like, what? And then I remember Noel, he told me, okay, because it was a psychiatrist and the psychologist. He told me, look, next time you see Francisco, don't put yourself any pressure. When you see him, if good feelings come, let them come. If bad feelings come, let them come. Just don't put any pressure on you to feel anything.
Accept it all as it is.
Exactly.
Yes.
So after that appointment, I went home and I was with him. He was little. He's about 6 months. And he was with my cousin, and they're the same age. And I was just with him, like I said, and it was very neutral feelings because I didn't have pressure. So I was feeling very like calm and neutral for the first time.
Right.
And my cousin Noah, she starts crying. And Francisco immediately, his face like got so concerned. Like he was looking at her like, oh my God, what's wrong? And then he looked at me. And he looked back at her, and then he looked back at me. But this time, I feel like he was communicating that we needed to do something for her. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, he's so caring. And that was the first day I felt something for him.
Wow. That's powerful.
And I was like, okay. And then I just kept on with my meditation, my self-compassion. I became obsessed.
So you connected with your son on another level.
Yes.
That's amazing. So let's shift a little bit because I'd like to know, I'm sure listeners would like to know, you're able to choose these things mentally and then you take action.
Yes.
You take action, which is the key. Because you can say, oh, I'm going to get better, and then sit on your ass and watch, binge on Netflix. Not do anything, right?
Yes.
So it's about making a choice. So the power of choice is connected to the power of action.
It is.
And in your platform, Empowered Psychology, you talk a lot about steps and different actions one can take that I think in retrospect, you've figured out how you got to where you are.
Yes.
And it wasn't just like this random thing.
No.
Because when you make a decision, you have to then follow it up with some action.
Absolutely.
And do you have like a formula, or do you have anything that you can share with us regards to that? Because I'd like to know, actually.
Yes. So first and foremost, I just want to say that before you ever begin the process of making changes, you need to believe that your intentions are enough. You need to identify your intention and know that that is enough to start the process of change. Also, a similarity between these three scenarios, my first lupus flare, having my son, and my second lupus flare, is that I accepted where I was. 100%.
So you mean like, all right, this is shitty. My life is shitty. I'm sick. This sucks. Without being a victim.
Yes. And taking accountability.
Okay.
And that too. So I accepted where I was 100%, all of it. Because in my head, I'm in a mess anyways.
And when you say accountability, I think it's only in respect to where you can be accountable, because you can't be accountable for getting lupus.
Well, accountability, because they're in recovering from and finding out, the mental illnesses that I had, and in recovering from it, I had to take accountability for the things I did.
Right.
Because now that I know, there's a point, once you know, after that is your response. I in my head is my responsibility.
Right. You can't cry ignorance.
No.
Oh, I didn't know.
Exactly.
Now you know. Right.
So I accept. So first, I identify my intentions. And I trust that that's enough. Second, I accept where I am 100%. Fully accept, because how are you going to identify the problems if you don't know what they are?
Right.
And so for me, that was really powerful. So what I did was I identified first what I wanted through those intentions. You know, what does my ideal self look like? And that's actually a technique that psychologist Peter Goldwitzer at NYU uses, and his wife Gabrielle Oettingen, mental contrasting.
Okay.
That's what it, like, the academic term for it. But I identified, you know, my ideal self, and then because I accepted where I was able to really compare the two and see what was missing, what I needed to work on.
Right.
And from there, you start to do little, I call it micro changes for macro evolution. You start to do intentional little changes, and these changes are actions, because there's a goal, a plan. A goal without a plan is just a wish. That's true, because that's just a thought. A goal, if you want it to come to life, is an action. So I make sure to do little things every day, based on what it was that I wanted to achieve. And little by little, my mind just started shifting, and I was able to conquer lupus, the postpartum, the mental illnesses, 100%.
So can I ask you, so you say you had to micro changes. So over time, do you feel that has affected your nervous system? Like totally rewired yourself and the way your nervous system responds?
Absolutely, because it actually allows me to give myself grace.
Okay.
Because when people want to make changes, they make these big, they have these like big changes. And the truth is, let's put it in the context of mental illness. Your brain has been operating on a certain level for so long. It is like literally impossible for it to change overnight. Mm-hmm. So these micro changes have been super, super powerful, because it's allowed me to have grace. It's allowed myself to give myself the grace to heal. But then also it's allowed me to really sit and really like absorb certain changes.
I can really relate to that. There was a time in my life when I was suffering from narcissistic abuse. Mm-hmm. And when that ended, I was like, I flatlined. I was like, oh, now what? And I felt depressed, and I felt anxious. And it was because I accepted, like, wow, look what, and I blamed myself for a while. Mm-hmm. I let it go on, and why, you're a smart person, whatever. But it was really physical. I wanted to sleep all the time. I was doing all my affirmations and meditations, and I had to rewire myself, because I found at a certain point in my life, half of me was in this narcissistic relationship. The other half was trying to be healthy and well, and they were colliding, So when I got rid of one, I wasn't this hyper, working on a hyperactive mode. Mm-hmm. And I just went, yes. And my body wasn't used to that.
No.
But little things I started to do, I made a choice to every day I was going to do a certain thing or go a certain place, little by slowly. And I say within 2.5 months, I started feeling so much better and more alive and healthier. So I totally get that. Like the little changes that roll you into, before you know it, you look back and you're like, wow, little changes make a big change.
Yeah, the macro evolution.
Yes. And you're right. Chopping off a big piece and saying, I'm going after that, that's a heavy lift. And that's why a lot of people don't succeed.
Also, this is hard work.
Yes.
You know, that's something that you've shown me. I didn't even recognize that within myself. You showed me that a few weeks ago because I have about probably 4 journals. I've been on this mindfulness journey for 4 years, healing myself of everything. Luckily, thank to God, I'm leaving this world with no secrets, and I'm leaving those journals to my children.
Oh no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
burning mine.
But
I already told my kids to promise they're gonna throw them in the fire pit
oh
if
my
something happens to
God.
me.
But I've gone I've done like 4 journals of intense work. This is hard work. This is uncomfortable. You know, this is not easy. It's not a fairy tale. It is it the there's it's a journey. Let's
And,
just put it
yeah,
that way.
and you know what? That's I think why a lot of people they fail
They
is
will.
because they're scared of the work. They don't want to swallow the big pill.
No.
You know, when I started my journey of healing about 7 years ago, the pills were so huge. I was always choking on them, like, "Ooh," and feeling horrible. But then, like you said, you learn to give yourself some grace and like, okay, well, I fucked that up and that's over. It's time for me to now make amends and move on. You know, if I hurt anyone, like you were saying to me earlier, there was a time you just had to go around saying sorry to everybody,
Literally.
right?
Yes.
And it's very freeing, right?
It is.
And some people don't deserve it. That's in my opinion. Because they were shitty to me too. But I don't care about that. You know, all I care about is on my side of the street. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but the work is hard.
It's hard work.
And, you know, a lot of relationships fail because one person wants to heal and the other person doesn't want to take the ride. So one person's growing. This Dex's girlfriend's at the door. He's like, time to wrap this up, Mom. That's what happens when you make a podcast in your house, right? So, Dexy,
It's okay.
quiet, buddy. All right, sorry about that.
No worries.
Muzzle you, boy. So anyway, yeah, I just think the work. You just got to do the work, and just to give a little bit of an analogy, when I got Dex, getting a puppy's hard work.
Yes.
And I hadn't had a puppy in over 20 years, and I had a whole family in the house at the time. My parents were alive. My kids were in the house. You know, it was a whole different deal. So here I'm alone, and I'm getting this puppy, right? And the breeder said to me, who's also a trainer, he said, for every 1 minute you put in of training, you get 100 back.
Yes.
Those 1 minutes were effing hell with training a puppy. But you know what? He's perfectly trained. He's, you know, I got the best companion. He's my buddy. No problems with anything. Because I did the work. And it sucked a lot of the times. And I was living in a condominium on the 18th floor with a puppy that has to go out a million times a day. Right? So, but you do the work and you get the result, you get the reward, right?
Exactly.
So, I just think a good message here is you got to have the stamina, right?
Stamina, and also the beautiful thing about my journey is I didn't even know I was gonna get so many rewards.
Right.
Like I just went into, like I said, June 13th.
Survival mode.
I went into that the psychologist office, and I said,
Yeah.
I'm done
Yeah.
living a lie.
Yeah. Just want to get better.
I just want to get better.
Yeah.
I don't care what I have. Tell me the truth. I need to get better. This is everything. I'm giving you everything. You know? I didn't even know what that was going to turn into.
And did they tell you were so strong and you'd been through a lot? Was there a lot of validation attached to that?
There was, you know, it like I said, that statement, you know, after I finished, you know, not venting, but telling them everything, I was expecting, you know, like, it's called CPS. I don't even know, like, something crazy. And then when they said, oh, this makes sense, I said,
well, you know what? I think what you demonstrated is something that you like to talk about. It's called ego death. So tell
Yes.
us a little bit about that.
So to me, an ego death is just that, the death of your ego is complete freedom, complete surrender. I experience it through meditation, but it's a necessary component to healing.
I think that you expressed that a couple of times when at first you had the problem with your lupus
Yes.
and you just made a decision like, I'm going to get better. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do whatever I have to do. Give me a wheelchair. Like,
Yeah.
someone with an ego is not going to say, give me a wheelchair. I look like shit, but I'm going to school anyway.
Yeah.
They're not. They're going to
No.
say, oh my God, I lost 20 pounds. I'm
Lost my
sickly. I
hair.
lost my hair. I can't walk. They're not going to go. So there's your ego death there. And then your
Yes.
ego death with going to the psychiatrist and like, this happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. And you not even understanding that you really didn't do anything wrong. You're thinking they're going to call CPS on you. So
Yeah.
ego death again.
Yes.
But you didn't do it alone. What was around you? Community, family?
So I knew instinctively, and I think it's because of my culture, that I needed people around me. And also I'm very people person. I'm very social. So in both instances, with my lupus flare and when I was recovering from my mental illnesses, I went to my friends and my parents and my family, the people I trusted, and I said, "Hey, I'm going through this, and I really need y'all's support, and I need you to understand or try to understand what I'm going through." For the lupus, I got a lot of support, like a lot. But when I was recovering from my mental illnesses, my family, they were very much like scared.
Why do you think that is? It just the culture, or did they
It's the
think they were
culture.
guilty of something? Or
No, it's the culture because, for example, when you hear, and let's just put it this way, like in Honduras, it the people that they associate with mental illness, because there's not really much care for mental illness there, like they're the crazy lady in the village.
yeah, I know.
You tell them like when they heard my diagnosis, like you don't have that. I know this lady from my village has that, and she would run around naked. You don't do that. You know what I mean? And so I had to tell them like, yo, like, look, even if you don't understand, this is serious. Like, I can't live with like this anymore. Like, we're gonna accept it and we're gonna move forward. And at first, there was a lot of resistance, but then when they started seeing my changes that were undeniable, when I started hitting them with those apologies, and I mean, seriously, I really wish people would give themselves a chance to accept their realities, because there was a one day where I apologized to my parents for something, and the look in their eyes is something that I'll never forget, because I knew I had done the right thing, and that that to me was reassurance. Like, wow, like they were taken back, and I was freed.
Well, that shows you a lot about them too, because there's some people that you can apologize to and they'll just say, yeah, I knew you were wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah, okay, I told you so, like one of those. Or hate you even more because you're one-upping them and you're showing them what a good person you are. So to be received that way is awesome for them as well.
Yes.
You're looking at these people who are actually good, caring, loving, decent people, because they're acknowledging what you're doing for what it really is, like something genuine, amazing from the heart. And it's not easy for people to do.
No. And now they believe, actually they practice mindfulness.
Your parents?
My parents. And they believe in mental illness now. And they're completely, even like, it's sad because they're saying that, they come to me and they say things. They're like, yo, that was wrong. How they used to hit us. How they used to raise us.
So now they're learning. They've grown.
They have.
Wow. My father, my biological father is the only one who's left of my parents. My stepdad and my mom are gone. I can never imagine my father. He's not from this country either. I could never imagine my father mindfulness, meditation, saying sorry. Never. Never.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just feel so happy that you're here and you're sharing all this, and I thank you for it. Um, I think if you were going to wrap it up
Mm-hmm.
and give a final like message of your story, your mindset, your outcome, which I said in the beginning of this podcast, what you're doing with your life as a professional dancer, a scholar, a motivational speaker. You just did this, you knocked it out of the park at the University of Texas.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing. I think you moved so many people, the reactions that you got, the emails that you got, crazy. It just,
Yes.
yeah. So what would you, in a bow,
I would
final message?
A final message is to trust that your intentions are enough and do not have goals, have intentions. Because when I decided to really heal June 13th, 2020, I was not planning on going back to dance. I was not planning on pursuing a career in getting psychology and getting a PhD in psychology. I was not planning on moving to New York City. I was not planning on being a scholar, public figure, whatever you want to call it. That was not in my plan. I just had a focus and an intention to heal, and by default, all these things started to happen. And like I said, I wasn't expecting rewards, but because of the work I put in, because of those intentions, I'm getting rewarded every day permanently. I can honestly say this is the healthiest I've ever been. I am living my best life. I'm not sick. I'm free. And why is that? Because of my intentions.
Your choice.
Yes.
You chose. And if someone is on a journey right now or wants to get on one, are there any resources or anyone they could connect to help them?
Yes, I would say read Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff, and look up the word mindfulness. There's so many resources online. I'm sure you are going to start coming up with some stuff as well, but get informed on mindfulness and self-compassion because that is essential to the process so that you can free yourself, because you need to accept where you are and be aware of where you are in order to identify what it is that you want.
That's fantastic. What I got from you is that if you set your mind to something, you really set your intention, you can move mountains, right? And the mindfulness, the meditation, it's so important. But what I think is the most important, in my opinion, is the self-compassion.
Yes.
Because I remember not giving myself a break, being angry at myself and calling myself stupid. Oh, you're stupid. You did that again. Oh, you should have known, And then I remembered when I was able to forgive myself and say, you know what? I'm fucking human. I'm human. And I make mistakes. I'm not superhuman. And I have a similar experience as you, not anywhere close to what you went through. And I could say, I did a good job navigating myself back this way. And I pat myself on the back. And I think we need to pat ourselves on the back more. So, and stay focused and pat ourselves on the back. Say, good job, sister.
Yes,
good job
to
us.
us.
Ooh, good job to us.
Yes, always.
So I love to have you back later on down the road so you can tell us what's happening with your degree and with Francisco.
Of course.
And I'm also curious to know, because I know it happens for me, the demons come up again, pop their head up, and how you, what's that game? Whack-a-mole? That's how I feel sometimes. So that's for another time.
Yes. That'll be a funny episode.
That's a whole other episode. But anyway,
yes.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
Right.
I had a blast.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here for the first episode, and you're gonna do amazing things.
No, I think my guests will do amazing things. I'll just sit here and smile and look cute.
Oh my gosh, no, you will.
All right.
Right.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And, we're trying to be respectful of everyone's time. Just happy that you're listening. And stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram. And we will be coming out with more episodes that are just amazing, like this woman sitting right here,
Yes.
that'll help you to live an unencumbered life. Thanks.